Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the show where a real statistics professor gives you sports betting tips. This is Wednesday, May 29th for Major League Baseball. Here you can see the recap for Monday. Tuesday's games have just begun, so not really able to talk about how those have gone. Play the day back into positive. You're talking about this if you're not there with us yet on Dub Club, Play the Day is going to be worth its weight in gold here as we finally got that going the right direction after, again, a really weird couple of weeks. In April, the other A grades slowly chugging away here. Positive, the B grades. Again, the model's best plays are the B grades chugging along here. A break-even day on Monday for the most part, but you can see all of those ROIs, they look pretty good since we've restructured the grading such that the best grade the model can give is the B grade. Then the A grades are the picks that I like from that, the subset for those who want to play fewer plays. If you want to play more plays, let's say play all the B grades, you can see those ROIs there. And you can get all of those on Dub Club, along with, again, the Play of the Day Discord chat, more picks, predictions, summarized in chart form and word form, all sorts of really good bits of information for you, details, weather information. And if you want just the Play of the Day, it's just kind of Play of the Day only package available as well. Link in the show description, or that QR code will take you right to Dub Club and get you signed up. Some quick reminders before we get started. Information about the model and the community rules, pickswiththeprofessor.com/new. Weather is subject to change. We're 24 hours away or so from most of these games. We are projecting an average game. One game, anything can happen. And that's what we mean when we say 55%ers. They're going to lose 9 out of 20 times. But because we have a well-calibrated model, by knowing the right price to bet at, we will make more in the 11 wins than we will lose in those 9 losses. Of course, as always, take what you like and leave the rest. Last but not least, if you could like the show, subscribe, like, do all those things. That would really help us out a lot here as we are into a boring part of the year for a lot of sports bettors in baseball season. So every little bit of boost that you can give us, that would help, because this is not an active time for sports bettors, even though baseball, to me, is the most fun sport to bet. Maybe that's just because I played it even through college and still to this day. We're going to start off here with one afternoon game, Pirates and Tigers. Going to skip the other afternoon games. We don't have starting pitchers for a couple of them, and a couple of them are just priced really well. And I don't think I have anything to add to the conversation. So if we're skipping the game, it's because we don't know who's starting, or I don't have anything to add. I think everything's priced really well, and there's just nothing interesting for me to talk about here, so I'll save your time. The reason why with the starting pitchers, that's what this show's kind of about, is the starting pitching, in that the offense and the bullpens don't change much day to day, so you kind of know how my thoughts are on them. For instance, here we're talking about two teams in the Pirates and Tigers who don't have really good offenses, that the model hasn't liked offensively all season, bottom third of the league. Both teams' bullpens, again, the model's been pretty low on this Tigers bullpen, even from that hot start. This one's all about the starting pitchers, in that the starting pitchers will be the best things happening here on Wednesday for this game. Paul Skeens and Jack Flaherty. Flaherty having a nice little, rebound comeback here the last couple of years after some up and downs and some injuries. 3.84 ERA, but his underlying metrics look better than that. His FIP is in the upper twos. His xFIP's in the low twos. Flaherty looks really, really good. You know who else looks really good? Shockingly, Paul Skeens. ERA, get this, folks, 225, FIP 226, xFIP 224. We're talking about ERAs, it's a crude metric. It's not the best predictor. In this case, the ERA does line up exactly with the underlying metrics. He is obviously legit. His starting pitcher grade is a little bit lower because he's not projected to go deep. He's not a guy we really think the Pirates are going to let go 7. And that kind of hurts his grade a little bit, just because of the fact that then the team has to go to the bullpen, which isn't extremely good in Pittsburgh. That said, his per inning metrics are really good. His grade's going in the right direction. And I kind of think for both of these guys, they're both cases that a guy like Cousin Jared, when he's on the show, he'll talk about this. Both of these guys' grades are getting better and better by the start, and we don't really know where it's going to land. So that's kind of the thing that I would be keeping my eye on this one, is that both of these pitchers have a lot of upside. And that's where I think this one's really interesting, because the model says total of 8.25, whereas the market's got it at 7. These offenses aren't good. The model thinks some runs can happen for kind of one reason, and that's the wind blowing out about 10 to 15 miles an hour. The other thing to note is just how good are these starting pitchers. If the starting pitchers are more in the 80 grade, which would be talking about your, more weaker ace, very strong number 2, then this total projection is a little bit high too. So the model would say over or pass. I think maybe what that's telling us that this total is 7, that the under doesn't really offer value. I'm not really sure I want to play this over, though, because like I said, I'm just not convinced that we've reached a stopping point with these two pitchers, and the model is still catching up to how good they actually are. I don't trust either one of these offenses. So the model would tell us over. I'm going to say pass in a game that the model thinks the side is priced fairly well. So the night games here, handful of day games, handful of night games. On Wednesday, 6:35 p.m. Eastern for the Red Sox and the Orioles. Going to play very pitcher-friendly, slight breeze out, but a chilly night in Baltimore. And on top of that, again, a pitcher-friendly ballpark ever since they moved those left field fences back. Cutter Crawford and Corbin Burns. Crawford, not as good as that 2.98 ERA. FIP in the low 3s, XFIP in the low 4s. Good, not great. Corbin Burns, great. And I think y'all know that a top 10 pitcher in baseball, there's really nothing else to say about that. His underlying metrics look really good. If you're an Orioles fan, you're thrilled to have this guy. The Orioles, of course, have a huge edge. And at the offense, their bullpen's been the problem for them this season. We are in lockstep with the market on the side. I think it's priced pretty well. The total is maybe where we think there could be a little bit of value with the under. We gave out the under in this game for Tuesday. Now, it doesn't mean it'll necessarily hit, but what I did notice is that we played the under 8.5. I believe at minus 105. When I woke up this morning, that total had dropped to 8. And so, again, we consistently are getting the closing line value, and I don't preach that a lot. I think people who get too caught up in closing line value preaching that are it's probably because there's ways to manufacture that, and that doesn't necessarily mean you're doing anything good. It's one of those where if you're doing good, you'll get closing line value, but if you get closing line value, it doesn't mean you're doing good. So I don't like to preach too much, but we're constantly getting it. Here's another example of it. The Giants on Monday was another example of that, where we gave that out in the morning and we're saying, hey, the Giants are the right side here. And all of a sudden, everybody run away betting on the Giants first 5 and full game. We're constantly getting this closing line value, and that's the same thing that happened on Tuesday night's game, where I thought the total was priced a little bit too high, that the situation set up for an under. Doesn't mean it will go under. It just means that the market kind of finally got to where we were. The consensus got to where we were. And I think it's the same thing here. I think this total is priced at 8 right now, but with Corbin Burns being that good, the Red Sox offense not being that good, but at least having the good bullpen, I think Cutter Crawford's very solid. In this park, chilly night, this total really should be 7.5. And so there might be a little bit of value on this under, just like there was a little bit of value on the under on Tuesday night. Nats and the Braves will have the debut of Spencer Schwellenbach against Mackenzie Gore. I've talked about Gore already this season. Having a fantastic season. We might be witnessing the breakout, the full potential that we've known about for this guy for years now. 3.04 ERA, underlying metrics look great. He's going to be the better starting pitcher in this one. Of course, the Braves have the better offense. Even losing Acuna, they still have a good offense. At least getting Riley back helps. When you took out Riley from this offense, this Braves lineup projected pretty close to league average because they were really hurting. But at least getting Austin Riley back in place of Acuna at least gets them still decent enough. They still have a better bullpen here. This is going to be a nice night in Atlanta. We're talking in the 70s, slight breeze blowing out. Might play a little bit hitter friendly, but the total's priced pretty well. The side's priced pretty well. The main thing that I want to talk about on this was Mackenzie Gore. Really, same thing that I said about Flaherty and Paul Skeens, I think applies to Gore. So far, he's pitched better than that 93 grade. And so if the model is just being a little bit slow to react because it doesn't want to overreact to something and be caught by fool's gold and small sample size stuff, right? If that's the case, though, and Gore actually is better, which is very possible, then there might be a little bit of value here on the Nats, or there might be a little bit of value here on the under, because we are 0.2 of a run less than the total. If Gore's better than this, maybe he can keep that Braves offense a little bit more in check. Maybe there might be a little bit of value on the under. So it's kind of a Nats or under type lean for me. It's not one of the strongest plays on the day necessarily, but that would be kind of the way I'm looking at this, knowing that Mackenzie Gore is very good and might be better than the model realizes. Cubs and the Brewers. At this point, I don't know what else there is to say about Imanaga. Guy is insanely good. Still has a sub-1 ERA. That won't last all season. Probably we're about the third of the way through the season, and so far he keeps doing it. His underlying metrics are really good. Again, not quite that good, but still really, really good. Bryce Wilson, I think it's a little bit of smoke and mirrors. I think he's more average than great. His results with regards to the ERA have been there, but the FIP and the XFIP both in the fours indicate more of an average type pitcher than a really good one. So the Cubs will have the edge here at starting pitcher. The Brewers have the edge in the pen. I'm looking at this game kind of thinking about it like what happened on Monday, which is it could be low scoring to start. If I want the Cubs, I want to do them early. I don't trust that bullpen. The bullpen's not maybe quite as terrible as it looked maybe at an earlier part of the season, but the Cubs have the edge at the start. But then when it gets to later on, that Brewers bullpen is better. Model likes the Brewers offense more. This is another situation. And the reason why I want to talk about some of these games here that I talk about is the model would tell us to go towards the Brewers. If you're going to play the Brewers, it's full game. If you're going to play the Cubs, it's first five. The market's higher on the Cubs. It's just really hard to say how good Imanaga is. He's really good. And just how good he is hard. Like I said, we're at an inexact science point here. The model's really high on him. So I'm looking at it as there's just not value backing the Cubs. That makes it harder to back the Brewers. We are pretty close to that B grade threshold, though. So again, if I'm playing this, though, it's Brewers full game. If I'm playing the Cubs, it's first five because the Brewers will have the edge later on in the game. The Royals and the Twins, low 60s for this one. Slight breeze blowing in, going to make it play a little bit pitcher friendly for Seth Lugo and Bailey Ober. Folks, just a reminder, I already talked about it this show, right? ERA is a very crude metric. Assigns runs to a pitcher or not to a pitcher that might share responsibility. And that's when we look at the underlying metrics. They are much more predictive. And I'm looking at these two pitchers. And I think Lugo is the better pitcher. Don't get me wrong here. And you can see that with the grade on the screen. He's almost a full standard deviation better, a little over half standard deviation better. But that 174 ERA is pretty misleading. His FIP's in the low threes, which is very good. His xFIP's in the high threes, that's still very good too. He's not an ace, at least yet. Now, he's had some great moments. I just think if he continues to pitch like this all season, his ERA is going to be in the mid threes by the end of it, which is still very good. I'm not trying to say he's not very good. I'm trying to say he's maybe not locked down, Zach Wheeler level. And I say that knowing that if you've backed Seth Lugo so far this season, you've done great because he hasn't given up that many runs, but it's been a little bit lucky that he hasn't given up more runs than he has. And so it's just to say, again, he's good for sure, but if you've been riding him and the gravy train that he's been producing this season, I'm not really sure when I look under the hood that there's anything there that tells me that should continue and he should be priced like a Cy Young winner, because I don't think that's really what we're seeing. I think we're seeing some fortunate luck from him. Ober's a little bit the other way around. 4.33 ERA, but his underlying metrics have him more in the mid to upper threes. The gap between these pitchers is a lot smaller than the ERAs would indicate. Again, Lugo's the better pitcher, but Twins have a better offense. Twins have a better bullpen. The Royals are a bottom half offense, kind of almost no matter how you look at it, once you control for the fact that they play in a very hitter-friendly ballpark, top 10 hitter-friendly ballpark in the country. The other thing to keep in note, the Twins have had a lot of offensive injuries this season. And yet they're only like 3 games behind the Royals, who've had an insane set of pitching performances this season. And with all the Twins injuries and the fact that Twin starters aren't that good in general, at least relative to the Royals, which that's their strength, I think you're seeing who the better team is. I think the Twins are the better team. They're at home. I really like this Royals starting pitching staff, and I like Seth Lugo, but he's being priced like Cole Reagans, and I don't think he's as good as Cole Reagans is. We've got the Twins winning this 57% of the time. The market says 53% of the time. We've got a pretty big edge on the Twins here, so that's your A-grade pick on show here for you. Twins minus 117, A-grade pick, and you can see all the metrics, all the threshold, all the run line, reverse run line, first five, all sorts of goodies there on screen. Got the right picture today, finally. If you're interested in that information for every single game, Dub Club is the place to be for it. Blue Jays and the White Sox, 7:40 p.m. Eastern, first pitch, mid-50s for this one, blowing across. Going to play pretty pitcher-friendly because of the cooler temperature. Alek Manoah and Chris Flexen. Folks, I want to talk about this because the starting pitcher here, Chris Flexen, is terrible. Now, he's not as bad as that 5.69 ERA, but folks, he is not good. Alek Manoah, I don't know what to make of him. I thought maybe there was a chance he was back last week. That was not the case whatsoever as he got lit up. His ERA still sits at 397. His xFIP's maybe just a little bit higher than that. I don't think he's probably as bad as he looked last year. But at this point, I'm not sure he's going to be at least an average pitcher. I think that grade of 112 is probably pretty accurate, which is to say not good, maybe not as bad as Flexen. But I thought after those first three starts, maybe he would be coming around a little bit, and now I'm a little bit less convinced. That said, he should have some success here against this White Sox offense, which is just not very good. This game's interesting to me because the model would indicate that we should be going under 8.5. And I'm looking at these two starting pitchers thinking, how is this even possible, especially with these two sets of relievers? But I think it's the fact that this Blue Jays offense kind of grades out worse and worse by the day. It's now down into the at 99 for its overall rating, 95 versus righties. It's the first time it's been below 100 here as of late. It's been at least the full season kind of like, hey, again, we're not going to overreact, but we're going to react as appropriate. And we're continuing to get more data every single night on the Blue Jays. And it's like most nights they aren't that good. It's going the wrong direction. This White Sox offense is terrible. So the model will tell you to go under because the weather and these offenses, but my goodness, this is definitely a hold your breath kind of under given the starting pitching here. Maybe at least a first 5 under would be better because then you at least avoid the bullpens. I'm not really sure. We'll see in the morning. We'll see the first 5 markets if that makes sense. But if nothing else, it's White Sox or pass because I'm not convinced that the Blue Jays should be favored by this much. Their bullpen isn't that good. Their offense isn't that good. Manoah isn't that good. And I know the White Sox are terrible, but you have to be careful when you start laying prices north of minus 150 with terrible teams or with bad teams, I should say, even if they're against terrible teams. Because the Blue Jays team, what they're going to throw on the field Wednesday night is bad. And that's because they just, again, everything's below average. And so it's White Sox or pass. It's under or pass. If it's White Sox, it's first 5 because I just don't want any part of that bullpen. And we're going to hold our breath that Chris Flexen at least can be in the same ballpark as Alek Manoah. If nothing else, this game could get weird. Who the heck knows what's going to happen? So you're looking at plus odds, which would be the idea that I would use to try to attack it. Guardians of the Rockies, 8:40 p.m. Eastern. First pitch. Going to play a little bit more hitter-friendly than usual with a nice night, Colorado, wind blowing out. Logan Allen and Ty Block here. Allen, a pair of lefties here. Logan Allen, 49 ERA. Underlying metrics maybe a little bit better than that, but it's not by much. I mean, I'm not convinced he's really, got it figured out and can be, what the Guardians hope they can get from him. Of course, he's backed up by a very good bullpen. According to Sideline, best in the league. The Rockies bullpen, on the other hand, now grades out as above average, which I think is interesting, but their offense is terrible. They're going to need to win some low-scoring games with the way this team is set up. Unfortunately for them playing in course, I don't know how they're going to do that. They have the best home field in baseball. Ty Block here, 4 starts, 4.55 ERA, underlying metrics line up with that. Just a very meh pitcher. This is a game where the model is telling us to go on the Rockies. I think it's Rockies or pass. I will say this, though, about this game. Because of how good the Guardians bullpen is, in general, you want to see, fading the Guardians on the first 5. So it'd be a Rockies first 5 type play. That might be the better way to go. We want to see the market on that, see where there's more value. But this Rockies bullpen, the model thinks isn't that bad. I think their top relievers are actually pretty solid. They have lost Justin Lawrence, but he wasn't that good anyway for them. They've had so many other guys come up that continue to look pretty good out of that bullpen. Now, who knows how many of them will be traded, come July. But at least for now, I think that's interesting to take away here, that this Rockies bullpen might be the best Rockies bullpen I've seen in years. Their starters, of course, are questionable. Their offense is terrible. But the other thing to note in this game, and the reason why the model likes the Rockies, and so I think it's a Rockies play. You just got to figure out if you like first 5 or full game more. And again, I'll give an official recommendation for everybody on Dub Club. The Guardians are very left-handed heavy, facing a lefty starter in Ty Block. The Guardians offense drops to a 95 grade. which is below average. The Guardians are just so left-handed heavy. The Rockies are very right-handed heavy. Their offense jumps to a 78 grade against left-handed pitching, which still means the Guardians have a better offense. It's just the gap is a whole lot smaller. And again, with the Rockies having the best home field in baseball, historically, that's been for sure the case. This bullpen pulling it together, these starting pitchers being awash. The idea that the model's kind of saying this is closer to a coin toss than the market realizes. So it's Rockies one way or the other, and a game that we're pretty spot on the total. Yankees and the Angels, low 60s for this one, blowing out. Play pretty normal. Luis Gil and Tyler Anderson. Luis Gil has been fantastic so far. 55 innings, 2.11 ERA, gets an 89 grade, and ranks out as the 31st best active, healthy starting pitcher in baseball. FIP in the upper twos, XFIP in the mid threes, go in the right direction. You have to be really thrilled with him if you're a Yankees fan. As we talked about a lot, we like this Yankees offense. We don't really care for their bullpen, but the Angels bullpen is worse. Tyler Anderson's one to talk about here, 2.52 ERA, but FIP in the low fours, XFIP in the upper fours. A pitcher I love to fade because I don't think he's quite as good as that ERA is. I think it's a lot of fool's gold. I think people are going to look at these ERAs and think these two pitchers are similar. I don't think they are. I'd be on the Yankees here. There's not a ton of value. I think the Yankees make for a good money line parlay option. I don't really see a second team as of right now. The lines aren't out for every game yet because we don't have starting pitchers confirmed for like 4 different teams at this point. I don't really see a good partner for them right now, but I kind of think the Yankees, if you're playing 2-team money line parlay, if you're picking one a night, the Yankees make a lot of sense to put in that as long as you're getting a price here in the minus 170s. You don't want to be paying minus 200. For them. But the Yankees, as much as, again, I'm not a huge fan of their bullpen, it's better than the Angels. They got the better starting pitcher by far, got the better offense. They're big favorites. They should be big favorites. I just think this price should be more like minus 180, minus 185. So the minus 170s I still think is fine for the Yankees. Don't really love it by itself. We'll see if there's a partner for it for a money line parlay. Maybe we play them on the -1 or the -1.5 here. Could be another option. We also wouldn't mind the over. The market's 8.5, but you get plus odds. Right now on the over, we're thinking it should be closer to 9. I tend to like this over more so if the model was projecting 9, so maybe a weather update changes that in the morning. But at this point, I'm looking Yankees are over. As always, though, shop around. I think it's going to be important for this. I think it's going to be important for the next game, too, that we talk about, because you're talking about the difference between a nickel and a dime can really determine whether something falls into that price that it's worth playing or not. Flipping it from long-term profitable to not long-term profitable. Make sure you have multiple books in your account. Doesn't matter. Once you get to 3 or 4, it doesn't matter how many more than that you have. If you do, that's fine. But at least, at minimum, have 3 or 4 bucks. Shop around, spread your money out. Every nickel and dime you can save can really matter. If you don't have an account with them yet, BetUS is a great one to sign up with. 125% bonus on your first ever 3 deposits. They're still offering that. Don't know how long it'll happen. Maybe it'll end at the end of May. I don't know. So if you haven't signed up yet, check them out. They have great customer service. If you're having issues, contact their customer service. You'll talk to a real person, and they can get you squared away over there at BetUS. Again, link in the show description.
BetUS, America's favorite sportsbook and casino. Live betting and racebook. We're celebrating 30 years with a historic offer. A 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits. Plus 10% gambler's insurance. Get started today. BetUS, where the game begins.
We will wrap up with the Astros and the Mariners. Model still likes this Astros offense, thinks it's one of the best in baseball. Mariners offense, very average. Model still likes the Astros bullpen. We talked about that all season, that they really have struggled here a little bit early on in the season, but the underlying metrics are still very positive for them. That's where the Astros have edges. The Mariners don't have an edge starting pitcher, and I can't believe I'm saying that with Justin Verlander, but again, we talked about this. He's not the same guy as he was before. Does have a 3.60 ERA. It's a little bit of a mirage. His underlying metrics are not good. I think, and I think the biggest thing with him at this point of his career, at this point on the aging curve, he's going to have nights where he can put it together. He's going to look great. He's going to have nights where he looks a little bit more clueless. He gets hit around. And with the underlying metrics as they are, it's just a higher probability that the things sequence in the wrong order and he gives up 3 or 4 runs. 3 or 4 runs in this game probably going to be enough to do it. We're going to have a massive pitcher-friendly night here. It's already the most pitcher-friendly ballpark in the country. It's going to be cooler than average. The wind's going to be blowing in. The ballpark and weather adjustment on this is insanely low, high, absolute value high. It's insanely low because it's a negative number. And so if he gives up even 3 runs, that might be all you need here. There's a reason this total is so low. We'll get to that here in just a second. But when you look at these ERAs, again, Verlander has a better ERA, but underlying metrics support Kirby what these guys did last year honestly supports Kirby, as Verlander started to fall off a little bit last year from the year before when he was so incredible. That's where the Mariners have the edge, is early on. This is a pretty coin toss game here. The market thinks lean Mariners. I say 50-50. I'm not sure I'm playing the Astros, though, at plus 103. I want better odds than that. Maybe you look at the run line. It's going to be some steep odds here, but when you look at this total, the market's at 7. The model says 6.6. One of the lowest projected totals the model's put out this season. I think it might be the second lowest that I've seen so far. Here's the thing, is that you really need plus odds on the under 7 for this to be a plus expected value play. Why is that? Because, there's so much of the probability that's stuck on 7 in this game. 3-3 getting to 7. 7 is such a common score in baseball. And so you really want the plus odds. Though. You'd really love an under 7.5. It's just you don't have to pay the juice for it. It's under or pass. I'm just not sure that 7 makes sense. Maybe the first 5 under, it makes a lot of sense. We just missed on the first 5 under on Monday in a game that there was 2 innings that had run the entire game, and that cost us the first 5 under because the 2 half innings, the team scored all their runs each in 1 inning. There were goose eggs all over the place. Just because that lost on Monday, I think it might be the play here. You just got to look at the number. It's 3.5. I never loved going into 3.5, but you look at the weather and you look at these pitchers. As much as Verlander can be hit or miss, that's the thing, is that you're betting on him to get it together here. I like his chances to be better here, but I think it's like this. I'm looking at it like, maybe there's a craps comparison here since we're talking about betting here. But if I just played a simple game with you and I just said, hey, we're just rolling die, and what is the probability that the number is divisible by 3 or not? I like my chances that I get a number not divisible by 3 because I got twice as many of them. But it wouldn't be shocking if you rolled it and got a 3 or a 6, right? I just like my chances with 1, 2, 4, and 5. That's kind of what I think here. He's done well in this park previously. Pitchers love pitching in this park. It's a cool night. This Mariners offense is just okay. But I think he's just at this point where I just don't know. So I like an under here. There might be a little bit of value in the Astros. And like I said, if I play maybe a run line, makes a lot of sense. We love run lines for the road teams. Again, that's built into the odds, but it's still more fun play, more comfortable play. But we should be careful with this because Kirby is definitely a better pitcher. Verlander could give up a 5 spot. He could go 7 shutout. I just think the variance is getting high with him at this point. So hopefully you took something from that. If nothing else, though, again, I would just go lighter on that game because of the variance involved with that. Like I said, I like my chance that he has a good night. It's going to set up well for him, but those underlying metrics are just a concern here for me on Verlander. So again, maybe looking under, we'll see what the morning brings. Otherwise, that's all we got here for you today. All the games that have pitchers, and I have thoughts on the other games. Nothing yet, but maybe there's some first 5 plays. Once we get starting pitcher confirmation, et cetera, we'll definitely have some more plays for everybody over on Dub Club. That QR code there on screen, the link in the show description will take you right there. Sign up today if you haven't yet. Check that out for the summer here. There's a lot of good money to be made for us here betting baseball. And if you're watching the show, that's clearly something you're interested in. So check that out if you haven't yet. Otherwise, though, thanks for watching. Best of luck. And remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.